So like I was that brand new coach with like a practice plan, like 7 o'clock we're doing warm-ups, 7:30 we're doing this, here we're doing this, and I'd show up, I'd get so pissed, I'd like crumple my paper up and throw it away. I'm like, all right guys, we're learning skills today.
I'm crazy excited to do it, even though I'm not gonna lie, there's so much work between now and then that needs to get done. And so my mind always goes like, why the F is Christmas existing? Like this, I've become that guy. I was like, why do you need a holiday?
Watching my Nanu highlight clip of him making hits and breaking runs, and I would have a Snickers bar. Like to the point where
it's a reward, like
no, that was my pregame. Aside from the warm up, like to the point where the parents at Nationals like, did you have your Snickers bar today?
Yeah, like I know the name. His book is boring and I don't know what to me, but for some reason it's lost. But
I think the minute I stepped on a practice field for rugby, the calling happened.
An 8-year plan to be on the team, and I was in it within 2 years.
Don't wait until you are a pro to be a pro. Right.
And I walk around with a rugby ball sometimes and they're like, what is this child on?
It looks like it was a heavy hit.
It's up, it's not up.
You know, that's the first time I played like professionally.
I'm making rugby money. How can I make money outside of it?
And those 2 Scottish guys, and they said, "Oh, you're here for the movie."
That rugby is a game for all shapes and sizes, all cultural aspects.
He looked at me and he said, "You guys are awesome."
Grow rugby, 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 let's go to rock.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another great episode of Grow Rugby. My name is GiftTime and Bailu, and this is the show where we speak to people about the opportunities that they have found, created, or taken advantage of via rugby. Y'all, man, this is quite a week. Big shout out to USA Rugby Women. Struggle in the Rugby World Cup, but, good job for getting there, getting into the quarterfinals. Tough loss to Canada, I understand, but hard fought. A lot to work on, but, we have a future, and we're going to be able to do it again. 2031, 2029. So these are where we're looking at. This is where we're looking at. And try and make it back for there. I mean, there's more Rugby World Cups in between there, but, those are the ones in the U.S., so that's the only ones that matter. We win on home soil, right? Win on home soil. Guys, before I get started with everything, please don't forget to tell your people, subscribe. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to the YouTube page, GiftTime Rugby, or subscribe to Grow Rugby show here on any of your audio streaming platform. We want to make sure we're growing this, and of course, being able to reveal out more and more news as time goes on, and be able to put on some great guests, and just a lot to be able to put out there. Speaking of guests, we got a great one for you. This man has been with Howard University Rugby for over 2 years now. Is a former player at Mount St. Mary's, coaching now, leader. We got Tito Miranda, head coach for Howard Rugby Men, continuing our HBCU Rugby Classic series of interviews. And guys, there's so many to go through, but we've got some great ones. We've been working through Howard extensively. Tito was great to talk to. It was a great listen. If you guys watch it on the video, I mean, this is how serious we get about talking. The man was in motion, and don't worry, there was nothing. He was paying attention to the road, but in motion, and then being able to do it at the house. We didn't skip a beat. Did not skip a beat. It was all good. And so I enjoyed it, really. It was a lot of information to take in, a lot of new information to learn, and honestly, I was happy about that, man. It's always good to learn more. In a great conversation. I think you guys will really, truly love it. In the meantime, I need you guys to go check out Rugby Outlet Mall. Check out our HBCU Rugby Classic shirts, because we need you to be able to help us, be able to put this event on, be able to support HBCU Rugby, showcase HBCU Rugby, happening in Washington, D.C., March 31st to April 2nd. It's going to be a great time. I promise. I think you guys are going to want to make sure you get there. This one is going to be exclusively different than any other one. But that being said, check out rugbyoutletmall.com. And of course, you guys can get 10% off your first purchase with the coupon code GROWRUGBY. That is GREAUX Rugby, and you guys will get 10% off that first purchase, and it will mean the most to be able to set things up for the future. Of course, we also ask that you guys go and check out HBCURugbyClassic.com. We got some news coming up, tickets coming through, but in the meantime, check out the newsletter, and that means going ahead, subscribing, get the newsletter so you can get updates on information, updates on new deals, updates on anything happening first before we reveal it out to the public. We always take care of ours first and then move out from there. So I hope you guys enjoy those. But with that being said, let's go without further ado, make our way over. Tito Miranda, head coach, Howard University, Rugby Men. Check it out.
Grow rugby, 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 grow rugby.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another great episode of Grow Rugby. I got a V and an I of the I and the people of the P's. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Head coach for Howard Rugby Men, Mount St. Mary's alum. This is the second one that we have right up there with Farrah Douglas. Tito Miranda. Tito, man, thank you so much for coming through.
Hey, man, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited. Like you said, it's been a while, and I would love to have a chat with you guys.
Man, and it's true. Look, and I know the first time, particularly with Howard, was through with 2020, but I had already known about you. I think either the BIPOC group and some other rugby groups even previous to this, and actually a couple other people I think that we have in common that I'd heard about you. But obviously, Howard Rugby and taking over as the men's head coach was a big identifier, and it adds a little spotlight, if you may, So,
oh yeah, it's definitely awesome. One being the coach and getting into this adventure with the guys. It's kind of all in this together. So,
hey man, I feel
it's super
that.
exciting.
Yes, indeed. See, and that's what I'm talking about. So, I it's been something that has been interesting, especially when it comes to obviously my vested interest in HBCUs, but again, the continuing process of a person being able to take the time to not just be able to coach, but volunteer to be something that actually moves culture and the pressure that goes along with it. Yeah,
it's definitely something new to me, coaching wise, and then even being Hispanic, it's a little different culture wise. So it's a learning curve for all of us, and then just it's fun. And I guess they get to experience my culture too. I'm up there making a goofball of myself, and just using the slang now is not what it used to be when I was in high school. So yeah, you're old, dude. I'm like, I know I'm old, but I'm not. I was like, I was just in your shoes 4 years ago, or 5 years
right?
ago. It's not that long, guys. One day they thought I was 45. I'm like, dude, I just graduated college. 2015, 2017. It wasn't that bad.
Look, it's the internet age. Time moves faster than normal. All right, this is interstellar without the gravity. The gravity now happens to be, again, culture. Believe me, I understand the feeling all too well. But kind of before we get into more of the depth of about being Howard coach, I always like to find out, from everybody what their origin story is, because every superhero has an origin story. So for you, Tito, to get it started. Tito, my friend, how did you get started in rugby?
Growing up in Silver Spring, grew up playing soccer from the age of 4 till I was 19, 18.
Yeah.
I went to Mount St. Mary's to play soccer, and that didn't end up working out for me. And then junior year, the rugby team always practiced on the other side of the pitch, the other field next to the soccer, club soccer team I was playing on.
Yeah.
And then one of my buddies had been bugging me for 3 years straight already, hey, come play rugby. I was like, all right, I'll go. I'll go to practice. And then that's where it started. I was they called me the foot fairy because I was a soccer player that could kick. I found it a little simple. So I was on the sidelines doing like little tricks, like lifting the ball up in different ways, not just picking it with my feet, and learned how to tackle and kind of went from there. I've been really blessed with great coaching for rugby. Like you said, up at Mount St. Mary's, they got Jay Miles, also had Coach Jim Bonner, like taking in all the new guys, helping them out, like kind of teaching you the ropes. And the teammates I had were also very experienced and were able to take their time and teach me. Nice. So I was very blessed that way.
You know, you talk about playing soccer for basically 15 years. I guess for the most part, the majority of your life. For you, was sports something that was important within your family, or was it just something that you had high interest and just kind of ran with it?
Oh no, sports are huge in my family. Like just going back in time, like my dad back home in Guatemala. So I'm originally from Guatemala. I was born and raised here though, but like summers I'd go back home. We got a farm over there, so we'll go mess with the cattle and just have that fun, right? But then he grew up playing soccer. Right. They came to the States, still played soccer. Like growing up, we'd go to all the DC United games, and we would like have my kids like a travel team as a kid. Yeah. Every Saturday and Sunday, we were on the road going to my soccer games, and then like during the weeks would be going to practices, and we'd have one-on-one practice with my dad, just like basically teaching me how to like do a different type of kick or how to defend better. So like sports in my blood. I'd never see myself not doing a sport and not helping out someone with a sport or something like that. So like still got season tickets to DC. I watch baseball, football, every sport I can. A lot of rugby, obviously.
Right.
But yeah, like still the point where I plan my Saturdays and Sundays around it.
Yo, that's what's up. Like I'm assuming that stadium, like a piece of the stadium is in your body. Like it's part of the whole setup now. It's like it's not a separate stadium. This is my offset. This is my second body over here.
yeah. I was like, take pride, even though the DC isn't the best team right now. I'm like, yep, I'm part of that team. Like I have that seat over there. Look, or when they're in RFK. So.
It's one of those. It's like the meme is like, yo, that's mine. I stick beside him.
In the tough times and good times, I'll be there. I think like the same thing goes with Old Glory too, because I'm doing. I'll go to their games as well and kind of just observe. So it's good.
You guys got my guy Nate Osborne over there, so I in part now root for DC United success as a result. So hey, just keep in mind, you keep a faith. Oh, but no, that's legit. You know, I it's always interesting because of the fact I think a lot of people obviously don't know the first gen experience, especially whenever you get a chance to travel. For me, you know, my family's originally from Nigeria, so. There's always been these elements that, you know, you focus in on a specific aspect. For my parents, you know, it's academics and activity, you know, but there's always the necessity of establishing your culture and being able to make sure that you're establishing within your culture, regardless of whatever it is you do. For you guys, obviously, you talk about being able to go back and forth between Guatemala and Maryland. You know, how much were your parents emphasizing maintaining traditions or keeping you informed about traditions as you grew up as an American kid from Guatemala? So, of Guatemalan descent, if you want to be specific.
Yeah, the way I see it is I was raised in the United States, but I was raised like I was still in Guatemala. Word. Like my first language is not English, it's Spanish. I didn't learn English until I went to school. Like I was a kid in Esau, like always like struggling with English, and then caught up to it. And they're like, "Hey, listen, like at home, you're gonna speak Spanish. I don't care what you speak outside of here. Like, listen, you're gonna love this later in life. You hate it now. And now with the job I do, all I speak is Spanish because I'm in construction as a super. So it's a huge blessing in disguise. But I hated speaking Spanish at home when I was a kid. They'd catch my sisters and I speaking in English, like, "Hey, stop! Like this is a Spanish. Like we're speaking Spanish in this house."
Yo, let's go. So, see, I'm envious of that, and I think it's something that I've seen a lot within Latin American and Hispanic homes, and being able to make sure to maintain that language. Because for us as Nigerians, our parents, as they came over, a lot of them were like, look, we want to make sure we integrate in well. Like, this is the 90s, really particularly the 90s and 80s. It's like we wanted to be able to integrate, so we're going to hold off on teaching the language. The parents will speak the native language at home, but will not transfer it over. So you'll like pick up things, but it was never a necessity. So then when it comes to the future and it comes to now, and the parents are like, oh, why don't you speak the language? It's like, yo, you never taught us. Like, what are you doing? Like, how are you mad at us for us not being able to do this job? So I give a lot of credit to those families. And of course, I understand reasons, but whenever you bring it back in my face, I go, hey, other people taught their languages. All right. You should have been part of the process. All right. Became the problem, and then you called us out for it. So kudos to your parents on being able to maintain that component of the culture.
Yeah, and that's like just not the language, but like the food. Like we didn't grow up eating much like pizza or all like American food. It was all like home cooked meals with like tortillas, rice and beans, a lot of that. So I was able to learn to appreciate that more. And that's what I'm hoping to pass down to my kids one day.
Dude, I feel that. That one did maintain for us, at least, even though the language one was a misnomer, to say the least. Misnomer was an exclude. It was an exception to the rule. Everything else always maintained. So I think it's always wise, because you get that hybrid situation and being able to, be the tweener where you understand both cultures. And I feel like it's like Super Saiyan, kind of Gohan kind of thing, where you're more powerful because you get to be both instead of just one.
Yeah, that definitely is. I can like fit in a lot of situations, So it's awesome. I love it.
I love that. So kind of moving from soccer, football. I'm in Brazil now, so I can say football and not scoff as I used to do. But
it's actually the real football. So
I know, but it's the internal biases. I have been properly brainwashed to this. But as whenever you got to college and you're playing soccer, you're playing with Mount St. Mary's, and you start to make that transition to rugby. What was it with your parents? Because obviously you and your dad had a huge connection, and obviously the rest of your family through this soccer element. You, like, what was that transition like in terms of understanding and accepting?
Yeah, they had absolutely no clue what rugby was. Like, just a little story. When I was a kid, I would play like street football and all that, right?
Right.
Mom got me what I thought was a football. It was actually like a rugby ball with the South Africa emblem on it.
Yo,
I looked at her and I'm like, Mom, this isn't a football. So I threw it away.
Bro,
because I mean, going to public school in Montgomery County, like, you don't have rugby.
True.
So then I started playing rugby. And I called him like, hey, remember that ball you got me that one time? I was like, that's the sport I'm playing now. So
they're like, that was like 10 years ago. Wow, how are we supposed to remember
I was like, do we still have that? She's like, nah, you tossed that. I'm like, oh, dang. All right. But I think it was like I don't know the exact verbiage for it, but like telling you the future without really telling you.
Foreshadowing.
Yeah, that's what it is. Foreshadowing. So, but like picking up at first, they were all both nervous just because injuries and tackling. Like soccer,
Right.
Tackling is not the same as rugby. And I never played football. I was literally just a soccer player and did martial arts. So there was a little more contact. They came out to a couple games. She said that she had her heart in her mouth because every time we would get tackled or I would tackle someone, she was nervous. My dad just would watch on the sideline, and I was a kicker. I was the conversion taker for Mount St. Mary's. So it's funny because he would give me tips on how to kick better if I would miss. And I was like, this isn't a circular ball. So it's a little different than kicking a soccer ball, man. But thank you. I was never rude. I was like, thank you, Dad. I'll look at that. But
hey, the man said, hey, the thing can rotate, right? All right, we're good.
Yeah. So like I was lucky enough to get decent pretty quick at rugby. So once I started making like the A side and becoming a starter, that really changed their mind. There was always that like thought of injury, which happened a couple times, and They were not happy with me. I got yelled at a couple times. I'm like, what am I going to do? It's part of the game. Just like one day after Georgetown, I show up with 7 stitches on my face the day before my dad flew out. He's like, what are you doing? Like, you have no scholarship. They're going to break you. You're not going to be able to walk.
No. Man.
So it was always rough patches, but we went to the Nationals and they were proud then. And when we won it, I think we won a couple times and won it. It was definitely one of the high points in our lives.
Oh, that's legit. That's legit. It always is good to be able to be like, I told you so a little bit. Like, yo, you worried it's too much. Like I told you, it'd be good. We got something from it, right?
Yeah. Now, and honestly, playing rugby at the Mount really changed my life completely. I don't know where I would be without picking up the sport, and just like Jay is like a dad to me. So him and the whole family took me in. His son is one of my best friends. He was the best man at my wedding. So it's really like another family I picked up from playing, and not just Jay, but a lot of the team that I played with were still really good friends. So.
Speaking of the family component, and I just kind of want to get maybe an idea, less of maybe a comparison, but more of just a context, going to, well, let me contextualize with this. I know Montgomery County pretty okay. I had an ex that was from Bethesda, and I've buku cousins in that area because,
sweet.
Yeah, Maryland is the smallest big place I've ever seen where it's like everybody knows everybody. I-59 directly, like everybody knows everybody. Yeah. But it always seems like there was always, like I said, a connection. The people that you had in your life in terms of friends and family, but more so in the friends department, because you were so central as a soccer player, what was that transition like whenever you started telling them about rugby and your participation with rugby in that?
So it was a little different for me because like once I went to college, I guess my friendships with soccer, which is where I have like a different view of it, weren't as strong as they were with rugby. I grew up playing for the same team since I was probably like 11.
Yeah.
We were all really good friends, and then we all went to college, and it kind of just stopped there. It's probably my fault.
Like that competitive, because soccer obviously is so competitive because as team sport as it is, it seems to be very individualized in a lot of aspects.
And I hate that because there's not one good player. Everyone plays a different position.
Right.
As a team, yes, you have. Let's stick to soccer. Like you have the best forward in the world, right? Like,
right.
You also have really good defenders. So what I was saying is like the guy that coached me for 9 to 10 years, he is the assistant coach at Howard U for soccer.
Mm-hmm. Oh wow! So, small world again. The Montgomery County and DC and Baltimore, like it's all the same area to me. I've come to learn.
Yeah. But like I would keep in touch with him, but I would like randomly see like players out and just we always say hi and all that. We never really got out of the way to hang out. Again, all these guys went to bigger, like state school.
Yeah.
I went to a small Catholic university up in Emmitsburg, Maryland. Population of probably 1,000 people,
including the students.
yeah. More than half of those are students. So, it was a little different.
No, I got you. And even with the ones like, and if you don't want to talk about it, obviously you don't have to, but like, what was some of the issues that you ended up having once you got to St. Mary's with that program? Because obviously there's something, and I'm assuming you either had a scholarship or at least you were with the varsity team. So you're dealing with a pretty...
So I wasn't. I went to Mount St. Mary's. I got recruited to go there, and it didn't end up working out because, like, coming back to the Guatemala thing, I flew out to Guatemala the day after I graduated. And like we had a couple of tournaments with the club team I played in, and the coach like was kind of just iffy on it.
Yeah.
So freshman year, I show up and enjoy the freshman life a little too much.
And I know this feeling all too well.
And then
5
it
days
was
a week. Somehow you managed to pack in 7 days a week of partying. What the heck?
I'll show you. No, I was the kid that wanted to be a doctor.
Oh God! So you were that guy who was like, "Yo, I need to do my bio, my chem," but
yes. So I went through very tough times my freshman year because they were self-inflicted. Grades struggled a good bit, and then it was just a fight to kind of get them up. So I was playing club soccer when I was going to try out my junior year. They axed the program.
Oh wow!
So it was just like a club team that I was already on, and I'm like, you know what? Okay, that's that. Like them axing it. Like I have no reason why I should try harder now for soccer. Let me just go try different sports.
Yo, so you get in, your friends convince you, and to be honest with you, it's very funny because not necessarily a similar experience, but I definitely understand the freshman year struggle. For me, it was engineering, and I went into it like super cocky. Because like sometimes like I'd done some advanced classes in high school, so you see the material, you're like, oh, this is like the same thing. I don't need to study. Let me go out and go enjoy freshman life, and then you get that struggle. And at the same time, I was actually trying out for the football team. But the ironic part was, and this kind of speaks to the like how you felt with the rugby ball, the South African rugby ball, and you threw it away. One of my dorm mates. He was part of the USF rugby team and invited me to go out. And I think I tried once, and then I was done. I was like, because honestly, at the time, I thought, because I just read that rugby was just a progenitor of American football. So I was like, oh, okay. So this is just like one of those old sports where it's like fencing, actually, I felt like it was like the Renaissance Festival. I was like, oh, people like play this Renaissance Festival game. It's not obviously, but like this feeling, you do it because it exists, but it doesn't have any serious notion to it. So let me go on. Little would I know that Florida has some of the heaviest rugby in the country, especially at the collegiate level. And then after, it would be the inference for me playing later on. But that foreshadowing and dystopian entry always adds an element to that. So I feel that. But for you, you enter into the rugby circuit, and obviously, like you said, you've been playing soccer all this time. You're not tackling. What made you go past the first practice?
I guess all the guys are like the first practice, they took me in. I didn't feel like I was a brand new guy. Like I was like, I remember the very first thing I did was like, all right, like we're doing this drill. We're going to be tackling. So just watch a couple. And then they had one of the older guys step out of the drill and start the guy that kept bugging me for 3 years, his name's Craig. He's like, hey, come here, I'll help you. So he helped me tackle. And then the coach is like, hey, the only way you get better is by doing it. So go jump in the drill. And it was awesome. Like I carried the ball, I broke a tackle. I'm like, oh, I can do this.
He's like, this feels right. It feels right.
Well, I called my mom. I'm like, hey, the biggest thing about soccer is like I have a pretty thick guy with thick legs. I was like, Mom, I'm playing a sport. Everyone has the same legs I do. All these guys have thick legs too.
I'm not alone.
I was like, I'm home. I'm home here.
No, I love that. And I think that goes into that element, like, again, that initial welcome, I think is always, for the most part, I think been very consistent amongst rugby teams, which I think has helped so much down the road. For you guys, as you continue through, can you tell me about your first game and what that experience, your first time being able to get on the pitch? Let me be correct.
So my first game, I was playing B-side against Frostburg. So it's like a 3-hour drive from Mount St. Mary's. Yeah. So I'm in the car with guys that I met 2 days before. And I show up and the coach is like, where's this guy? Like, he's not here. Like, all right, Tito, you're playing fly half. I'm like, I have no clue what that is.
Wait, they had you playing fly half off the bat?
I was just, B-side. It was just B-side. So, like, I show up. He's like, just, like, catch the ball and, like, give it to the guy next to you. Or if you see a hole, just take it. I'm like, all right, cool. I had 0 passes that day. I would just catch and carry. We scored a lot of tries, and I was kicking because they had me kick, and then I was just sliding them in. I'm like, that's what I cemented my stay on the rugby team. That's when I was like, all right, I'm going to get better at this sport and just roll. I wasn't the best at tackling, but I was getting a lot of yards after contact.
Hey, look, drag who you need to drag to be able to show that power. But like even in that, again, outside of practice, it's not something that you normally did. Like, what was that mentality for you where you were just like, yo, give me the hits. Give me the hits.
So it's weird, but one thing I always used to do is I always used to watch a lot of rugby. When I first started, I'd watch maybe 2-3 games a day. We used to work in the library, like late shifts. So I would just throw a rugby game on and like no one would ever come up to check a book out. It was mostly just like printing papers. So I was always had a rugby match going. And then they were telling me what positions I would possibly play. So I was like, all right, like who should I look at? And so like the first guy I started watching was like Dan Carter and then Mananu. I'm like, I want to be that guy. I was like, back then, 5'10", 230, 225. I'm like, all right, I'm that height, that weight. Yeah, I was like, I think I can run like that. Not that I'm even close or ever got close to being as good as he ever was or is.
You got to set the mark.
My mark was him.
Yo, I feel that. I absolutely feel that. I felt the same way. I don't know why for the life of me the name's not coming to me, but the flanker captain for the All Blacks with the hair played with Mananu as well.
White guy? Sam Kane?
White guy, yeah.
Sam?
What's his name?
Is it Sam Kane, maybe?
No.
Messing his name up?
Number 6, won 2015 MVP for the Rugby World Cup.
Oh, is that when he retired? He's the retired one, right?
Yeah, he's retired. Not now. Yeah, he's retired.
I'm blanking on his name.
Yeah, like I know the name. His book is boring and I don't know what to me. But for some reason it's lost. But anyways, like that was for me. So like whenever my coach brought me in and told me I was playing flanker, it was just like, okay, who do you watch? And it was like, oh, this guy is the one that sets the standard. And it's gonna be so sad because in about like 10 minutes it's gonna come to me and it's gonna be the most out of context response. No, but it was one of those situations where, like, I get the feeling of being able to see those videos, and obviously for you, I think it would have been easier because you actually had YouTube to be able to utilize it. I think for me, even though YouTube existed, I got DVDs initially to watch like literally rugby from the 70s and 80s and early 90s, and a bit of the 2000s. Man, rugby really changed over time.
I mean, you couldn't have it on your phone, like YouTube on your phone either, right? So
facts. That's true.
So before every game, I had this one thing where I would watch a Mananu highlight clip of him making hits and breaking runs, and I would have a Snickers bar, like to the point where
with the reward. Like,
no, that was my pregame. Aside from the warm up, like to the point where the parents at Nationals like, did you have your Snickers bar today? They had extra ones, like just giving them to me just because they wanted to make sure I had my Snickers bar before they came to make sure I was good. Like they say, you're not you when you're hungry. So
right. Yo, hey, look, man, and clearly you were training your brain to remember what needed to be done. Get the Snickers bar. That's your spinach. The spinach to your Popeye.
pretty much. It was hilarious.
Oh, that's awesome. And for you, obviously we talk about your first game, but when was the game or the moment where you felt like I understand what's happening? Because there's always especially when you first start, there's I'm going through it. I understand the basics. Obviously, let me run the ball. Let me hit the ball. Eventually get the pass. But for you, was there a moment or when was the moment where you were like, oh, I understand the sequence of this. This thing makes sense to me as a whole?
Yeah, so I started my junior year. I guess like beginning of senior year, like mid senior year.
Yeah.
I don't remember what game exactly, but like I don't know, it got to a point where it clicked, right? Like I came in for full preseason and we walked through everything and I'm like, oh, okay. All right, that makes sense. So
like, I see the game is all here now. It's all here. It all comes together. So that's about still about a few games into your first season, basically?
First full season. I joined like November junior year. Like it was towards the tail end. So the first couple games of the second year I played.
Nice.
Yeah. That's when I also just kind of just played 12 for 15. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
dude, I love that. And so with this, you speak about your coaches and your teammates, obviously in incredibly loving ways. How much of an influence were they when it came to you becoming now a coach?
Oh no, they're my mentors. Aside from like Jay, we had Coach Neil Tana come in from Australia, and he just since we first met each other, it was like we like hit it off really well. He like actually helped me with kicking, even though he was a forward.
Nice.
I just mess with him. We would always do like our kicking sessions after practice or before practice. And then when I first started coaching, I called Jay up, and then I'd call him. We still actually just talked today about coaching.
Nice.
I just like running ideas through them, and now like just expanding the circle more with other coaches I'm like growing with. We just bounce ideas off each other. Just don't want to like keep it in like, I guess not in the mean way, but like the old '90s way.
Yeah.
This like rugby's like it's changing. It's changing, and like it's not just all about go hit that guy in the face and let's see who can like just run it up the middle anymore. It's like there's different methods of stuff. So I called Jay, Neil, my buddy Vince, who's also actually the assistant Howard coach here too.
Nice.
We play together at the Mount, and he coaches Howard and good counsel. He's really been a lot of help. We'll see some random videos on Instagram about like why plays worked at the pros. We'll like send it to each other like, hey, once we get a solid 15s team, we can try to run these plays. So we have like a little memory bank of a bunch of plays that we want to implement with the Howard boys. And then I've been able to like help out with Old Glory, like U19 and U23 Academy. We were able to meet like Cully there, and Danny T, who's been awesome. Just like hanging out with them. They have so much knowledge from being pros, to helping out with coaching now that they just, if I can catch anything that they know, it'd be awesome.
Oh man, that's awesome. So what was the transition like? Because you spoke about your time at Mount St. Mary's, you guys got the championship, but what happened between playing for Mount St. Mary's and then becoming the coach? Because as you said, you graduated 2017. 2 years later, you're at least signing up to coach with Howard, or 3 years later, you're signing up to coach with Howard. What was that transition like?
So, like I said, I work for a construction company as a superintendent. So as soon as I got to college, I started working in construction, and then I wanted to play rugby again. So I joined a men's team here in the area. And then I joined a different one after, Rocky Gorge.
Yeah.
They were awesome too. I'm not going to lie, that was some of the most fun I've had playing. Yeah, very competitive. Like each practice was pretty much like a game where like if you weren't on, you're not playing the weekend. But like everyone's nice, everyone knows their role. So like I was like, I tore my meniscus, like both meniscus, and I'm like, maybe I should slow down. I have to walk for a living around the building, like 12. Depends, like anywhere from like 7 to 12-story buildings, or even higher, depends on what the job looks like. I'm like, the torn ACL is not going to be good for me here. So,
I can see it as a little bit of a damper going up the steps. Who doesn't want to just kind of hobble up with the crutches up 12?
Yeah, so that and like COVID happened, so we still we didn't have an official season, but we would get together and play touch. And then like the season came around, like, hey, you coming back? I'm like, you know what? The opportunity presented itself. I'm like, no, I'm gonna see what I can do with these Howard guys. So it's been awesome.
Oh, that's legit. Even with that, it's still always a difference. Like a lot of times people start to kind of go off into the moonlight, to say the least, especially after injuries, where it's either just like, hey, I'm here to support from a distance or continue watching. But, what was that point where you were just like, maybe coaching is for me? Because did you feel like it was something that was always kind of in your system to teach, or was it just like a light bulb moment that maybe you didn't realize?
Well, I'd helped out with like we'd bring high school teams in for Mount St. Mary's, and we hold like a practice, and
Yeah.
I would just help out with the drills as like a model, and like passing around. I'm like, this is actually pretty cool, but I never thought I would coach. It was more like like, okay, yeah, I'll do this, and then I started it, and like, it's like a weird feeling where I have more fun seeing the light bulb go off on the guys that they can do it, than doing it myself. Like I'll still, don't get me wrong, I'll still go out there, step the kids, and talk trash on the way over. Like, you let this fat guy just get around you.
let them know. Let them know.
Yeah, I was like showing him tackling and slowly like revving up the tackle with one of the bigger guys on the team. So I was like, I still got it, dude. I can test me. I got you.
Remember, coaching is a choice, not a mandatory. We still got it. I just love you guys enough.
Yeah, I see them as my kids. And like one of the biggest things that I want to do, which what happened to me was, it, like I said, it changed my life. It gave me more opportunity, whether it was through like alumni or just like having more family. And if I could change one of these kids' life, that would make it all worth it for me. But I want to be able to like have the kid come back and be like, hey coach, look, this is what I did. This is what I'm doing to help the community out. This is what I'm doing with my family. The way I see it is we're all one big family, and I do want to win, but as much as I want to win, I want them to develop as men. So that's my biggest goal. Winning will come if I can get them to be good people.
Of course. No, I love that. And I think it's so important, especially when it comes into situations with HBCUs, because of the fact of the special culture that goes in development, because it is it's an egg of a sort that develops people in a different way. And I think it's really important to make sure that those intentions are always pure. Stepping into that, you guys kind of created this thing off of COVID. Why Howard versus maybe another high school? You talked about working with Old Glory U19. Why Howard for you? What was it that was the unique set or what was it that made you say, like, this is where I want to really start this thing?
Even though I was raised in Montgomery County, I'm a kid that's first generation here that parents weren't well off. When there was no school, I was working. I went to the Mount because I was able to get some financial aid and scholarship, and I kind of see myself in these kids' shoes. Mm-hmm. Many of them are just like single mom, single dad, maybe even first gen here. I have some guys that are not even here with family. So I like to keep in touch with them a little more. I got some guys that are from Trinidad, some guys that are from Kenya. So like I can kind of see myself in like what they're going through. And like I tell them every practice, I'm like, guys, I was just in your shoes. Like to all the foreign kids, they're usually soccer players.
Right.
So I'm like, guys, I was a soccer
from the
player.
islands.
Yes. All the Trinidad kids are playing soccer except for one that played rugby. I'm like, guys, I'm a soccer player by heart. Like, I know what you're going through. I know exactly what you're going through. Don't be scared to tackle. It's going to be okay. It's going to hurt more if you focus too much on it. Just hit the guy. So, long story short, like, still want to make it too long-winded, but
be long-winded. That's the point of the podcast.
But I feel like I'm kind of like they are, Yeah. And it's cool how it's HBCU. And like I said in the beginning of the podcast, it's a little different than what I'm used to. Honestly, Mount St. Mary's is pretty not as diverse as other schools around here.
Right.
But it's been a lot of fun. I've learned a lot. So I'm excited to see what we can do this year. Like, it's fair warning everyone else. Like, we're gonna be a team that's a little different than last year. We saw sparks last year, and I'm expecting to see a full team this year of what these boys can do. They just have to believe in themselves.
Dude, I love that. I'm gonna kind of continue on the cultural thing though a little bit. Obviously from the team side, you're able to get the relation, which is great. What was your relationships with HBCUs even prior? Because I know in my experience, before I moved to Louisiana, you couldn't tell me what an HBCU was. I had no idea anything about it until I remember my parents brought me we came to Baton Rouge, and they brought me to Southern University campus. Now, my family is Adventist, so the only Southern University that I knew was called Southern Adventist University in Chattanooga, Tennessee. So whenever they were like, we're going to Southern, my mind was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. We're in Louisiana. Aren't that supposed to be in Tennessee? And then they showed, they're like, oh, this is Southern University, this black college. And I'm like, cool. What?
Like, yeah, no, I was kind of the same reaction you got. The only other time I heard about it was in college, because the Mount St. Mary's usually plays teams around the area before they start their actual thing. So, like, I've always seen like Howard Gear and like Wheaton, places around the school.
Yeah.
I never looked into it. I didn't even know there were HBCUs until like college. So I had to do a little bit of research. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't realize how much of a prestigious school Howard is.
It is one of the creme de la cremes, and it has its own, like, from as I understand, because I never actually been to the campus despite being in the DC area, but it's like it has such a prestige. Actually, to be honest with you, I knew about Howard University before I knew about HBCUs, only because of the fact that this show, Living Single, one of the main characters, Khadijah, went to Howard University. And so I only knew about Howard University basically because of that. But the rest of the system, it was just like, I don't know anything about it.
Yeah. I did know something that, like, for homecoming, they always brought in some sweet artists.
Yeah.
So they did talk. The kids would come from Mount St. Mary's to try to get into Howard homecoming. Sorry, I lied. I heard about it before college, like right when I was a freshman and sophomore. They're like, yo, like, Howard's bringing Kid Cudi here. I'm like, what?
Hold up. So, how do I do this?
Yeah. So I lied. I did know about them, but it was just like a brush off. But then I, like I said, did some research. I'm like, oh shit, this is awesome.
Has the culture of the area impacted the way that you what's the best way of putting it? Let me use an example on this. I remember going on to Southern campus, and we have LSU and Southern campus. You know, they're same town, different sides of town. You know, you go on LSU campus, it's a PWI, you know, and for me as a university brat, my dad has worked at all these universities. I understood the motion of how that goes and yada, yada, yada. But whenever I would go to Southern, it did have a shift in energy. And obviously I'm not speaking in negative, but it was a shift in energy, whereas like I wouldn't liken it exactly to me going from the US and then visiting Nigeria, where you're just like, yo, everybody is you. But it was like, for me, it was just like, yo, this is a different comfort versus what it was on LSU campus or Iowa State or Penn State in its own aspect. Never uncomfortable in any of these other ones, but there's difference.
Just a little more comfortable there.
Yeah, it's just maybe even comfort might be the wrong word. More, it's just like there's less weight that was involved in it. You still had to know, because I'm still Louisiana in that time, so I'm a northern kid trying to understand Louisiana, but you know, it's still Louisiana, but it's just a different dynamic. For you, obviously, it would be more so, especially Montgomery County itself, and that arena in a lot of ways. You know, what was it like to be in this environment that was predominantly Black, and you're working with these kids who are developing inside this environment?
Yeah, it gets. I mean, like you said, growing up in Montgomery County, like, the majority of my school was mixed. Yeah. Right? Like, the DMV area is like a huge melting pot. Like, I know people always say that, but it really is, man. Like, I don't know. Like, I showed up the first day. I'm like, hey, how's everyone doing? And just like kind of went off from there. I didn't feel any different.
Nice.
It was cool. Like, all the kids are super nice. They were excited to be there. The one thing I'm still getting used to is just how late they show up. I've talked about it. I'm like, guys, I know Hispanic time, but please, like, let's show up on time for practice. You're just hurting yourself.
You know, it's the curse and blessing of melanin. It doesn't always make it for great time.
Nah, they've gotten a lot better.
Awesome.
We had to bring that up in a couple of meetings. Like, this year's goal is like, let's show up a little early before practice starts. Like, don't roll up like 8:10 when we're already warming up, you know?
See, this is a trick where you have to be like, yo, we got to get here by 7:30. No questions. Everybody guaranteed will be there by 8.
That's what I do on game day. On game day, I always send them an hour before because I know they'll show up on time.
Yo, I love that.
Just threaten that they're going to leave them there and they're not going to be able to catch a ride.
Yo, you do what you look. As a Nigerian, this is something that is near and dear to our hearts because there is no such thing as an event that doesn't start at minimum 2.5 hours later than when it's supposed to.
I completely understand that because being Hispanic, going to parties, we wouldn't show up at 5 when it started. We show up at 7:30.
Of course.
It's a lot of guys.
Yeah,
I was like, why do you be the first one there? No, wait a little bit. So I was like, hey guys, I get it. I'm the same way. When it comes to practice, let's show up on time. Let's all work on that. It's just hilarious. So Coach, you just don't know about CPT. I'm like, I grew up in this area. I know exactly what it is. So I just want to cut this off real quick.
Bruh, I love that. Man, you guys started this program smack dab in the middle of the pandemic. And I've heard that there was a lot of trials and tribulations that happened between 2020 and late 2021. Can you speak on some of the stuff that was going on in terms of trying to, get the not the team, but working with the administration? And on top of that, Howard was going through its own little personal issues as well.
Yeah. So first off, I was just assigned as a coach. I didn't have much to do with the start of everything. That was all Daniel and Takunda. They did all the legwork. These kids are awesome for starting this whole thing. When I showed up, I know we were having trouble. I guess the school was going through a lot, so there were a lot of empty seats where we were reaching out to people to try to get all the appropriate forms and all the signatures and the approvals. So that I feel like it just kept getting lost in emails and meetings and I got to go talk to this guy. We turned into kind of like a tennis ball.
Yeah,
but it was able to get worked out. It's cool. We know the paths to take now to get to the people we need to talk to. So Howard, it's been good. Like I said, it's been something to get used to. I'm used to one way I'm on St. Mary's because for grad school I was a graduate assistant, so I was pretty much doing the same thing.
Yeah.
But when I come down here to the coach, it's Howard. I said, guys, I have no clue what that means. They're like, it's different. I'm like, I know different. I went to the school up north. I know exactly what different is. It was just us there. They're like, you don't get it. It's Howard. And that's what they left me with. They did no explanation. So
they said, you will learn by experience, not by telling, because it'll be much easier to understand that way.
That's exactly how I learned. I would go there. I'd talk to people I could talk to. And we were able to make some good friends there. And the administration's helping us out, at least in the springtime with some fields and some other stuff there. So we're excited. We're excited for this is the first real year of us kind of rolling with let's say a mock fall season and a spring season coming up.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how has been the process of even recruiting the players and kind of bringing them along? Because I know how much of an arduous process that can be. Not so much difficult, but just because there's so many moving pieces that you have to do and the dedication. Obviously, married, you're working, and going. And Howard is smack dab in the middle of DC as well too.
Yeah, so even though I live in DC, it takes me 30 minutes to get to Howard because I live on the northwest side, and it's technically still northwest, but I hit every single traffic I can get there. No, but it's been good. Recruiting wise, last season, my main focus was on teaching the guys how to play.
Yeah,
I didn't even bother recruiting anything. I was mostly just, hey, tell your friends to come. Tell your friends, bring your friends, and they did. We started the first practice. We had, I want to say 6 guys. One guy showed up on time. The other guy showed up an hour after.
Oh, dang.
And then that slowly came, it would be hit or miss on how many players we had. So I was that brand new coach with a practice plan. 7 o'clock we're doing warm ups. 7:30 we're doing this. Here we're doing this, and I'd show up I'd get so pissed. I'd like crumple my paper up and throw it away. I'm like, all right, guys, we're learning skills today. But it's not their fault. Like, I can't get mad at the guys showing up, you know? So springtime came, we like consistently had like 9 to 12 guys. So we were able to actually run some sevens, very limited because you couldn't have a defense or an offense to play defense against.
Right.
So that's like Vince and I would hop in the line and just try to like mimic something, or we would scrimmage the women's team that was on the other half of the field just to try to get some looks.
Yeah.
But this year, like, I remember the first practice, like 23 kids showed up.
Wow.
Like I was expecting like I said, all right, last year we had one senior, so we lost one guy. We'll have 13 kids, you know.
Right.
And then Daniel texted me like, "Hey coach," I'm like, "What's up?" He's like, I was like, "First practice is here." He's like, "All right, we have a lot of kids." I'm like, "No," I was like, "No, we don't. No, we don't, dude." So I show up. I was like, about to start crying. I'm like, "Guys, like, to the guys that were here last year, you guys remember who showed up the first day of practice? So do you guys see this? Like, you guys are making a difference in the school."
Man.
Now, like, they're like talking to their friends. Yeah, I'm actually trying to recruit this year. Trying to get anyone that's interested to play. We're not really it's not really a tryout. We'll bring you along with us.
Right.
And everyone knows like their self-awareness is very high.
Right.
So I got main players and players that know the role, key players, and everything like that.
Of course.
So just trying to spread the word of Howard Rugby. I was talking to one of the football coaches. I'm like, "Hey man, if you guys have players that you're dropping, like let me know. Like they can come play contact sport. We can keep them in Howard University for 4 years." We actually have recently got a new kid that last year he was throwing the discus for the track team.
Oh wow.
Nice. One practice late. It's like May or April. He's like, "Hey guys, like I got to practice. Like, do you guys mind if I play on their half?" I'm like, "Yeah, dude, no problem." I was like, "You be interested in playing rugby?" He's like, "Maybe." He's like, "Well, he's like, I'm graduating this year. And I don't think he's eligible to play like track and field anymore." So he's like, "Okay, I'll try it out." So first practice, like Chris is there. I'm like, "Oh shit, he actually came."
Yo, let's go. How does it feel to be like, yo, I recruited a guy? I didn't just recruit a guy. I recruited a guy. Like, yo, let's go.
He's like 6'2", 260, baby, just all muscle. Yeah,
big dude.
Like this. Like I said,
I hope you put him at the wing. Just
no. They're like teaching him how to tackle. He's like, "All right, dude, just get low. Like wrap this guy. Like I'm trying to find a way to explain to him in track mode.
Yeah,
so you can try to do this. Like, did you wrestle? Like, do you know what a single is?" It's like, no.
Oh man, that's awesome. One big congratulations on being able to see that like level of improvement and seeing the dedication from not just you guys, but from your players and everybody really buying into what this could be and what the future of it is really looking like.
Yeah, and like just the kids that I had last year that we went to sevens tournaments last year, and like we didn't win many games, but there were like moments where like it looked like they were just moving like an actual team, you know, like going side to side and then getting the breakaway, not just trying to. I think you're too used to football trying to get the touchdown in the first one. They slowly started actually believing in the system that we set up.
Yeah.
And I pull them like, "Hey guys, like this is what it's about. Like this is what I keep talking to you guys about in the field." And like Coach Vince, this is like, you guys can do this. We just have to make sure you guys go. Just listen to us. Right. So I think they like you know how you said I had that moment in life where I knew I could do this. I think they had that last season when we won a couple of matches or even kept tight to a couple teams.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, "Oh shoot, it's working." So I'm hoping to build off of that for the springtime.
Dude, I love that. You know, continue.
Sorry, this fall season has mostly just been skill work, just like tackling and passing, like learning how to run lines. So the springtime we can really take over the sevens scene.
Dude, I love that. You know, obviously you guys are going to be a part of the HBC Rugby Classic, and you guys are prepping for it. And dumb crazy excited to do it, even though I'm not gonna lie, there's so much work between now and then that needs to get done. So my mind always goes like, why the F is Christmas existing? Like this, I've become that guy. I was like, why do you need a holiday? Nobody needs holidays.
Yeah, no, that's. I don't think people that show up like as a player going to tournaments, I never saw all the background or all the legwork that someone has to do until I started being a GA, a graduate assistant for the rugby team. Like, oh shoot, I was just worried about showing up and playing. There's so much more to this. So I completely get what you're saying right now. We threw our own tournament there, and it was just it was rough.
Yo, look, you know what do they say? The struggle makes you stronger.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I have a different question before I get to that point because I just realized, as you've continued to coach and you do construction supervising, have the two assisted in each other?
Oh yeah. Actually, I just had this conversation today with Neil. He's like, hey mate, like one thing you realize is you learn a lot about yourself and like about coaching in the construction field. Like you learn how to pick up people's personalities and make those different personalities work with each other. That's my job. I don't physically do the work. I just like quality control, make sure it happens. Like time, material, I have to make sure everything's in there. And that's like in a weird way taught me how to like with the kids too. You have two different people, making them work together. Sometimes they won't get along and they don't have to, but when you're a team, you have to make sure everything works out. Right. And it's all just one big, the way I see it is all one big game, whether it's on the field or in the construction job site. You just have to make sure that you guys are able to get to that end.
No, I love that. And it makes sense. Again, obviously that ability, they always talk about is the managing personalities and the managing characters more so than probably anything else when it comes to coaching. Obviously you teach, you set up plans, etc. But that personality and managing people is the toughest and probably most central one because those are people who are trusting you, but vis-a-vis you're also trusting them to
perform.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, just not to go like too far, but like how these kids take criticism. Like some of them you can lay into. Like other guys, you'll see mess up and their head goes right down. Like, dude, stop. Like, just have more confidence in yourself. It's gonna be okay. While you're lighting the other kid up because he dropped like the third pass in a row, and that they just both need that different thing to just make them work. So it's just like they get to learn what type of coach or what type of person you are, and you do the same with them.
Word.
And I guess the first couple of weeks it's like feeling each other out to see like what everyone is. And there's sometimes you like bring them in a huddle. I'm like, what is going on? Like, what are you guys doing today? Yeah. But it's not every day, so it's good.
No. I mean, look, again, part of the process. If there's not enough comfortability to be able to tell them the truth, which is always what it's about, can you be the most honest, vulnerable, transparent person to be able to make sure that it helps their goals, helps your objectives, helps the team objectives? That's where it becomes central because that's whenever the trust builds the most, right?
Yeah.
True. So kind of back to the point that I was going to make, obviously as the HBC Rugby Classic comes closer and closer, what is it that you guys are, maybe hoping to see that maybe comes from that? I don't know if the guys have talked about it or, you guys have it as you set your season going to or what the objective is. But, maybe a better question is how are you looking to set the season for this spring?
So, well, obviously we want to win the tournament, right? We're hosting it. We want to make sure that we put on a good, not show, but put on some good games for the boys and for everyone that shows up. And then win the tournament with just being in the tournament. It's going to bring more eyes to Howard Rugby or Herd Rugby. But if we win it, shows that we're one of the better schools. So I would like to be able to recruit more using that. It's not something that we're just planning on playing 1 year and then dropping, but it's something that we can hope to play every year. So I don't foresee. Yeah, I'm not trying to just have it be like a one and done type of thing, but build a relationship and have us be like when the CRCs were over here in Philly, like want to be the Lindenwoods or the Lifes or the Armies of this area. We would want to be those teams here for the HBCU tournament. So,
dude,
I also want to bring the community out because football is huge here. Like we go to practice on Friday nights, and it's like a football team playing there, a little rec leagues, or I don't even know what team it is, but I want to show the area that rugby is also a thing that you can play. You know, not just always football.
Facts.
So if there's some way we can get the community involved even more, then they can realize that there's more options. You know, and that can take you to college as well, not just football.
No, I love that. And you know, again, you spoke about how much rugby has impacted positively the way that you go and the way that you live. Oh, how's wifey take the rugby life for you?
So funny thing about her is her dad played rugby at Mount St. Mary's, but I didn't know that until after we started dating.
Yo, again, foreshadowing is life for you. Let's go.
So she's in residency right now, so we have a lot of like time where we don't really spend together, and we're really good friends. Like I said, like Jay, and we have our own rugby group up there. So she's like hanging out with the moms, where the wives, all the coaches are on the side, just chatting the whole time. So I think she's taking it well. They're usually just kind of hanging out, having some wine, while we're just talking about rugby and how we got to try to make it better.
Oh no, man.
She likes it. She was last year for sevens tournaments. We'd like pack sandwiches and all that for the kids. So she was like helping me out with that, and hoping to get her out a little more this year, just because she's been busy with her residency. So it'll be good.
Well worth it. You know, man, I'm loving this. Tito, man, where can people find you? Find more information about Howard Rugby Men and being able to join and all the good stuff.
Yeah, we got Instagram. Howard Men's Rugby, I think it is, or Herd Rugby. We got the website as well, and then just find me as well if you guys have questions. Just Panda H Miranda on Instagram. Just hit me up. I think the picture is still me playing rugby. I don't know if I changed it yet since I got married. I don't think she's happy about that. I usually just only post like, "Hey, happy birthday," or just a rugby picture.
Hey, look, it's a focused profile. It's a very focused profile. We don't need the nonsense. We know what we want.
And if you guys want to come out in the DC, if you guys are in the DC area or ever want to come out, we practice right now, Tuesdays, Fridays at Edgewood Park from 8 to 10. And then we're hoping that in the spring we'll do Monday, Wednesday, Fridays from 8 to 10 at the actual stadium. So trying to make it home field advantage as much as possible.
That's dope. Hey, like, look. I am the pitch, and the pitch is I.
Yeah. They're going to be one with the pitch. You know how he said be one with water? They will be one with the pitch that day.
How did rugby people all of a sudden become earthbenders? Oh, Tito, man, I truly appreciate it. I love this. Your story is great, and I look forward to continuing to see as your guys' development goes over these next several years, and watch your personal progression and just continue to be awesome, man. You're doing great things out there. You're setting a mark, and it's significant to both the culture and the rugby culture.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This has been awesome. I'm super excited.
Tito, man, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to be here. Great conversation. And y'all, I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. Hope you guys are able to get some new perspective and just get an idea of just what it takes getting to these points. I love these stories. Of course, check out some of our podcasts before. Last time we had Adam Hughes, the author of Onward. And of course, we had Catherine Aversanu, Howard Rugby Women's head coach. They had Takunda Rusiki, Daniel Devalier, captains for Howard Rugby. And we've had so more, Chetta Emba, Naya Tapper. We've had some great guests coming through, Tozan Tutistanwe, and so much more. I suggest you guys check it out. But in the meantime, until next time, I hope that you're happy. I hope that you're healthy. I hope that you know that you are highly favored. Cheers.